Welcome in to Stop the Takes. Dakota and Austin here, live on YouTube for Week 4 recap of the NFL. It was an interesting weekend of football. Started on Thursday with the polarizing Cardinals uniforms. People either loved them or thought they looked like tortillas. There was really no in between. And then, what better way to end it than with a tie on Sunday Night Football? How are we doing, man?
Doing pretty good, dude. Ready to talk some ball. Another fun week of the NFL. Wasn't as crazy as last week. There are still some insane special teams plays, though. That's a theme of the year is the insane special teams this year. But yeah, ready to get into it.
That really is, dude. Like most of the notes that I take on some of these games now are just how much special teams are having an impact on the get down to down and out income, end outcome of the game. So, all right. Without further ado, then let's jump right in to Thursday Night Football. Seahawks dominated this game. It's the NFL, so this happens all the time. But there's been a lot of games already this season. I think that, the fact that it was close in the end feels weird because of how much a team just felt to have it in control, and this was an example of that. The Seahawks defense was great throughout until the Cardinals surged because the Seahawks never really scored enough points on offense to kind of put it out of reach. And Kyler and the Cards got hot.
It was a weird game, dude. It did feel like the Seahawks had it in control, and then they just let the Cardinals come back at the very end. And of course they ended up getting it done, but it would have been a tough game to lose because, like you said, it felt like, especially in the first half, Seattle dominated. Biggest takeaways from this game: Marvin Harrison Jr., kind of the tale of two halves. A guy who has really struggled to start his NFL career. To a very weird extent, man. To a very weird extent, because for one, he was a really good prospect, and for two, the ways he's struggling is just odd. At this point, he felt like he was mentally broken, especially in the first half, man. Just more blunders. But then in the second half, he got it together. He caught himself a touchdown, mossed the guy in the end zone, made a couple other plays. So maybe that's what Marvin Harrison needed to get his confidence back.
Hopefully, because you could almost blame him for part of the first half going so poorly. When he stops on a route that results in an interception, and then he just kind of bobbled a ball that was pretty well thrown by Kyler for another one. So he did have two blunders early on that cost the Cardinals some drives and I think led to points by the Seahawks. But then he did have that mossed play to get a touchdown that was kind of the spark. And the Cardinals managed to tie it up late. But Darnold was incredibly efficient again. That's been the tale of the season for him. He has been reliable. The Seahawks just commit to the run pretty heavily, even when it's not going super well. Averaging like less than around 3 yards a carry for both backs in the game, a little over for Kenneth. Seahawks, almost blew it and then managed to get down, kick the game-winning field goal, and salvage what could have been a pretty brutal loss had they actually blown the lead.
JSN's breakout continues as well. Man, he's looked really good. If I'm not mistaken, he made one of the big catches on the final drive to get them in field goal range, if I'm remembering correctly. So, yeah, I mean, him and Darnold have had a huge connection. My only other notable thing is how they were using Aurora, the Miami rookie tight end. Man, lining him out on the outside a lot. He was making some plays. Just interesting how they're using him. His body, he almost looks like a receiver. So kind of interested to see how that develops throughout the season. Because they're starting to get a little like an interesting group of weapons. Despite Cooper Kupp being kind of a disappointment so far this season. But yeah, I'm intrigued with Seahawks, man. Seahawks defense has looked great all year. Darnold is playing like he did last year up until the end. So I think Seattle's a threat this year, man. It's going to be between them and the Rams, I think, in this division.
Yeah, this division right now, every team is 500 or above. Three-way tie at the top between San Fran, Seattle, and LA. Seattle's one loss at the beginning of the year was to San Fran. Otherwise, I don't know right now. It wasn't for that strip sack by Nick Bosa. Yep. So quite the division. And yeah, I think with San Fran's injuries catching up to them, it'll probably come down to Seattle and the Rams here. in the NFC West. So, all right, let's move on to international game.
Yep.
Dublin. Apparently, the Steelers have a pretty big following in Ireland, which I did not know. But they've tried to like peg themselves as the Irish, the Dublin team. They even had like a giant banner in the stands and everything.
Is that because Rooney's ties? I think he might be Irish or something. Maybe
that would do it.
Yeah, I think that's it. And if I'm making that up, then who cares? Like, well, fact check me on it. We're just making stuff up on today's show. But I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. I think maybe Sam was talking about it, and Sam would know since he's Irish. So,
it's true.
But yeah, I think that's why maybe they have a little bit of a. And honestly, over there, dude, it's nice because they can just pick whoever they want to root for. If you want to root for the best team, go for it.
Do it. You get called a bandwagon.
You have no regional ties at all.
None. So, yeah, we sent them the Vikings and the Steelers. Honestly, not a bad matchup. Would have been a lot more. Would have been more interesting, I think, if JJ was out there. But to be fair, against the Steelers defense, I don't know if it. Steelers had this game in control the entire time. A-Rod and DK were cooking early. Their run game was actually probably the best it's been all year with Kenneth Gainwell at the helm. Jalen Warren was like a late scratch, and Gainwell was out there just pounding the rock. But just like the Thursday night game, somehow managed to let it get close at the end.
Yeah. Shout out to Gainwell. He won me 2 fantasy matchups this week. Late ads in fantasy. And I'm gonna be kind of interested to see his role going forward too. But yeah, dude. I mean, Aaron Rodgers started this game hot, man. I mean, I'm watching the game, looking at the stats, and he's 9 for 9 to start. Had that huge play to DK. That, I mean, Rodgers made a good throw on that slant, but DK was, the big reason that went to the house. Obviously, he looks as good as ever. So, yeah, this was a result I was a little surprised in. I thought this was going to be a bad matchup for Rodgers and the Steelers. Turns out I'm an idiot. I was wrong. And they, for the most part, looked good. And their defense is actually starting to play kind of like how we expected them to play this year. Remember week 1, they, kind of got torched by Fields and the Jets. They've really started to lock down the last few weeks. And now with Lamar's injury and the Ravens being 1-3 and Joe Burrow's injury, all of a sudden the Steelers have a legit chance to potentially win the North.
That is a very good point. They now have a 1-game lead. I think we would all lean towards the Bengals losing tonight to at Denver against that defense with Jake Browning at the helm.
Yeah.
And then, the Ravens in a 1-3 hole where they still have to play a lot of the teams in the division. They have a definitive lead now. And, it was an interesting game for them. Thanks, Rue.
Rue's going crazy back there, huh?
Yeah, she is. But, they were cooking early. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was looking good. But, the defense specifically is the thing that stood out the most because – I mean, they got 6 sacks. It was their most since, can't remember what they said on the broadcast, like 21 or 22 maybe.
Their D-line's vicious, man. Vicious D-line.
Yeah, and they ate. I mean, it was funny. You would watch a play. If you paid attention to the Vikings offensive line, you would see Darisaw like holding his own. And then everybody else just getting absolutely wrecked. Like, he's just over there and he like turns around and it's just, okay, Carson's running for his life or got sacked again. The injuries on the interior, because rookie Donovan Jackson's out. Like there was some injuries on it as well that didn't help. Yeah. Yes, and it showed. The Steelers feasted.
Yeah. I mean, I think they have easily a top 5 defensive line in the league, and when you have interior problems like the Vikings now do, they really fixed in the offseason. The problem is those guys are now hurt, so they're back to their bad players. So Steelers easily took advantage of that.
Yeah, then 2 things from this game. One that was a funny-ish moment, but is when Jalen Ramsey has the fumble 6 that didn't count, fakes the hamstring injury to come around and have a hamstring injury. That was the same one he faked it with too, which was brutal.
That is actually
injured the exact same one. So we'll see how long he's out for.
That's brutal. Yeah, that sounds like Jalen Ramsey.
It does. And then Jordan Addison's return, he goes 4 for 114 at an 81-yarder that could have been a touchdown. That ended up being a big play in the game, where some white dude ended up chasing him down, which was kind of embarrassing. But it ended up being a massive play because it it delayed their ability to score, which slowed down their opportunity to get back in the game later. Had he scored on that play, it would have been a lot more interesting because there would have been a lot more time on the clock plus the 2-minute warning for them to get the ball back. But him getting chased down, that play ended up effort plays like that can be the difference sometimes, and that was a good example of.
Yep, no question about it. But I mean, honestly, going forward for the Vikings, having him back is interesting. I'm curious now that like if Wentz went on a run, right? If he went on like a 4-game stretch where they won every game, then I think they would obviously keep him in. But now that he drops this game and maybe they drop a couple others, I'm curious to see if they go back to JJ, despite him looking really bad. But when JJ does come back, and if those interior guys can come back around the same time, all of a sudden their offense is intriguing again because they have their full group of pass catchers. They have Darrisaw back, and going to be curious to see if that can kind of help JJ play a little better once he's back from injury.
It's a good point. Yeah, and Carson, he wasn't terrible in the game, but it's also like, you gotta give him the credit of the defense he's playing against versus some of the ones that he went up against and struggled. One thing I just got to give him a shout out. We haven't shouted him out this season. Is Greg Olsen in the booth. He did such a good job at breaking down like the 4th and goal decision and the 4th and 1 decision and whatnot. Because like, the Steelers go for it on 4th and goal, and I'm sure a lot of people were screaming at their TV and whatnot, but it was the right decision, and Aaron Rodgers convinced Tomlin to do it. I hated the play call. They decided to just try to run it from like the 2-yard line when Rodgers was cooking. But later on, the 4th and 1, when the Steelers punt to the Vikings to give them a chance, Greg Olsen was hammering for them to go for that 4th and 1.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they only moved the ball like 19 yards by punting it anyway. So it's like a 19-yard difference versus you just getting 1 yard.
Winning the game.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it's first of all, the Greg Olsen is the best at that. He is, I think he's the best play-by-play guy in the game right now. And secondly, that drives me crazy. I mean, we saw Mike Vrabel go for it on 4th and 1 from his own 16 at some point during the season, and that was in the first half. That wasn't even like to win the game, and they weren't down by a ton either. It was like 4th and 1 is such a high percentage play that it honestly makes sense to go for it almost anywhere on the field. And when you have one play to win, and I know Mike Tomlin's mindset. He's going to say, well, I'm trusting my defense. I'm looking at how my defense is playing, and I'm trusting my defense. The thing is, with the models, they bake those things in. And 4th and 1 is still such a high percentage play on offense that it just makes more sense to do that, especially when your reward for not doing it is 19 yards. Your reward for doing it and getting it is winning the football game. So there you go. Yeah,
and he is one of the best at explaining it. Not like talking about it for too long, but check to Micah's point on them like doing the making fun of the decisions or whatever, not doing a good job explaining why this is the case, and he always does a really good job of that. Last thing on the game that I'll just point is the pass rush also was kind of the reason they won in the very end. They forced that intentional grounding on the Vikings last drive that kind of sealed the deal, and they just did not have a chance after that. Steelers get a lead in the AFC North. I don't know how many people have been betting on that 4 weeks in.
Yeah,
we'll see.
No doubt, man. And again with Lamar's hamstring, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and Burrow out. It's kind of becoming their division to lose right now. So, all right, let's move on to a blowout of the weekend. Patriots beat the Panthers 42-13. Incredibly efficient game from Drake May here. Goes 14 of 17. And this was such a weird game because the Panthers kind of dominated time of possession. The Patriots could not run the ball well enough to like maintain possession to put the game away. But then when the Panthers got the ball, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and it's also one of the game that had the high leverage special teams plays. I mean, Patriots special teams has been good. Because it's not just kick returns this year, man. It feels like we're seeing more punt returns, which is weird because it's like that hasn't changed. Like we're punting the ball the same way. I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, somebody said that we have a special teams problem in the NFL, which maybe that's true. Maybe they're spending less time on it now that the kickoff rule has changed, which would be
Mm.
weird to me. Um, but all you could also, give the team credit and say, hey, some special teams units are just like looking really good and making big plays. Like you said, it wasn't a ton of production. I mean, it was really efficient though from Drake May, like you said. I mean, 14 completions for 200 yards. That's really, really good. I'll say that I think it's hard to know. This is tough. This is kind of like the Panthers Falcons game last week. It's hard to know what to take from this game. Like, have the Patriots arrived? Because I will say the Patriots have felt close. Like they felt close. Like, okay, it's not fully there yet. There's still a lot of mistakes. And if you eliminate those mistakes, I could see this being actually a pretty good football team. But the only reason it's hard to assess that is because it was against the Panthers. And the Panthers just at times just look, just completely unfunctional. That's kind of Bryce Young. I mean, at this point, I don't know if he's thrown for 200 yards in his entire career, dude. Like every time I look at a Bryce Young stat line, it's like $120 and a touchdown and maybe a pick. It's pedestrian stat lines from Bryce most of the time. And this was another one, man. He's not elevating the Panthers in any way. And I don't know, the Panthers roster is still not good either. I've seen a lot this week. This is the last thing I'll say about it, Dakota. I've seen a lot this week people talking about the Panthers and how Sam Darnold and Baker were on that roster at some point, and how they've both kind of broke out and, have been good. That just speaks to a lot of times it's not the quarterback, it's the organization. Yeah. And that's a great example of that. Two guys that have went on, are leading their divisions, have looked really, really good for a couple years now. It's because they left the Panthers and they got set free from that.
Yeah, it's almost like immediately after leaving them as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was the next landing spot was Minnesota for Darnold, and then he looked like an MVP candidate. Yeah, it's also brutal to see Bryce throw for $150 when you were losing the entire game. Like Carson Wentz in the game that they were losing to the Steelers, they then have the comeback. He threw 350 because you're fighting your way back.
Throwing.
That's what happens.
And they were down early in this game.
Exactly. And usually they're letting you, right? Like there's usually a little bit softer. They're good, they're going to let you take some stuff and they still don't. And what's crazy is that they had a great drive, the first drive of the game. The scripted drive went down, doinked the PAT. They did miss a field goal. They doinked a field goal in the second quarter. But they scored a touchdown on the opening drive, and then they did not score again until Andy Dalton's garbage time touchdown in the fourth quarter. So there's a lot of things people have been talking about, too, with like the scripted versus non and how how elite coaches have basically gotten at scripting. But then when it goes beyond that, they're just completely inept. And that seemed like another case of this where the Panthers went right down the field and then couldn't do anything. One thing that to point out that was hilarious was Drake May did the Cam Newton Superman celebration on his rushing touchdown.
I saw that.
Gotta shout him out for that because that was
Cam Newton, Patriots legend.
True, Patriots legend.
People forget.
Hall of Fame.
And dude, every time somebody does a Cam Newton celebration, Dakota, that's one more week of having to hear Cam Newton talk about 2015. Like it just keeps adding time. Like and Dan Orlovsky really, or was it who was it that called out Cam Newton this week? It wasn't Dano, was it? No, it was Tua in his press conference. It was Tua when he was like, "Oh yeah, Cam, it's hard to actually play quarterback," and it's like, "Well, dude, he won an MVP in the league." Like, but Cam Newton is like the worst guy in media. His football points are awful. So just because he won an MVP in the league doesn't mean he actually knows what he's talking about. But yeah, point being is now that Drake May broke out the Cam Newton celebration, we're going to have to hear more of just how great Cam Newton was that one season in the NFL.
One season. Oh, good stuff. One thing I was going to mention too on that punt return touchdown, because I saw what happened. There was a friendly fired injury on that, or a dude ended up clocking his teammate for the Patriots and got an injury off of that.
I missed that. That's tough.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, Patriots improved to 2-2. Panthers fall to 1-3. honestly, kind of exactly where we thought these teams would be. You know, we based on our preseason projections on win totals, kind of where we thought. To be honest, we were both high on Bryce, thinking he could continue what he did last year. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever been lower on him
Yeah, same.
because he's doing this poorly while T Mac is proving he's a wide receiver one in the NFL.
Correct.
And
He
he's
has
still
that
not
now.
there yet.
He has that now. His offensive line's getting healthier. I mean, I looked at he only got sacked once in this game. I don't know how much pressure he was under, I'll be honest. But like I don't know. It just, again, he's doing no elevating right now. There's no elevation of this team. And it's still not the best situation, but like you said, I mean, dude, think about this, which again, these things fluctuate, so this can change. But out of the last two wide receiver draft classes, if we're just redrafting the last two wide receiver draft classes and how they're playing at the current moment, T-Mac might be the first receiver off the board with how he's looked in the small sample. And I know Brian Thomas looked really good last year. He's off to a very rocky start this year. Now, he did improve. We'll talk about that later against the Niners. And Marvin Harrison's been a disaster. Malik Neighbors, it's hard to evaluate because of the quarterback play. Of course, he just got hurt. You know, Rome has been kind of pedestrian. So point being, I mean, out of that crazy draft class of the receivers, T-Mac is looking like he might be the best of the last two classes, and it's still not elevating this Panthers offense at all.
It's not, and it's funny you mention all that because like I saw somebody talking about it too, where just looking at last year's, Rome would have been at the bottom of the list of those guys, but now he's probably at the top with how he's played this year. So
definitely above Marvin Harrison.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Ladd.
Oh, yeah.
Ladd's done nothing this
Ladd's
year.
Been a ghost this year. But yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, the Patriots get the win, and we'll see. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I think next week we're going to find out for sure what they are. Sunday Night Football in Buffalo, so that'll be fun. Get some Drake May on prime time and Josh Allen. That should be good. Yeah,
that should go well for him.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, moving on. This one, hopefully, we'll spend the least amount of time on. I can, shit on my own team so many times, but in true,
sad, man.
It is sad, man. It's just sad. Texans win 26-0.
Also, did I predict this shutout? By the way, Dakota, I might have said this on the previous show.
I think you did. You predicted 13-0, and to be honest, it probably would have been that if it wasn't for some late, when we're going for fourths and downs and stuff that gave them position, but like it was on pace to be a 13. It was 13-0 and one. I feel like it might have been that way.
It was sad, dude. It was just sad.
It was just sad. That's the best way to describe this game. Is sad. Joey Slye did miss 2 field goals. One was like a 41-yarder, so it could have been tied at the half, but didn't matter anyway. Cam, the only thing that I will say it's positive in this again is that Cam had another that's just one of those oh my god moments where he rolled to his right, evaded pressure, throws it back across his body to Ellick, and it was just on the money. But I think focusing less on the Titans in this and the Texans, I still just don't know how I feel about the Texans, man, because the offense still struggled pretty heavily in this.
They did. The only thing with the Texans is that their defense just keeps them in these games, man. It's so good. They actually might have the number 1 defense in the league. I bet scoring wise, like statistically, they probably are the number 1 scoring defense in the league, if I just had to guess, especially with this shutout. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the Texans offense is still just leaves so much to be desired. Only thing I'll bring, well, a couple things. One, the Callahan thing. I think we have to at least say, hey, he's still here. I don't know why he still has a job.
I don't know.
I was actually very shocked to see that. He has another press conference moment where he, is, and I get it. It's frustrating. And the reporter, I mentioned this on another show I do, but I say how reporters are there to antagonize. I mean, especially when things aren't going bad, they are there to antagonize. And he did keep himself somewhat composed in that moment, but you can tell he knows the writing's on the wall. He's extremely frustrated with how things are going. Cam Ward was extremely honest with how things are going as well.
He did.
He just said, Yeah, we're ass, and that's it.
We ass.
We ass. If we're keeping it a buck, we are ass, which is, that's a fair assessment. It's hard to assess his play, though. That's another thing I'll say. It's very hard to
Yeah.
assess his play right now with things going this poorly. Um, I think they just need to get a clean slate and start over his development without Callahan. And honestly, the sooner the better, man. I think just because sometimes with the interim, man, it's just can change the culture immediately. We saw that with the Raiders a couple years ago, even though it didn't end up working out with Antonio Pierce. I think that's what the Titans need right now with Callahan. Just get him out of the building, get him away from Nashville, and just kind of start this season over.
Yeah, it just needs to happen, man. And this wasn't a great outing by Cam compared to how he had looked. He finishes 10 of 26. There was still a few drops in there. But yeah, it's just there is no positive in keeping him around when it's inevitable. There's nothing he could do to salvage his job. There's no moment where this team suddenly starts winning. But you could do more damage by keeping him around. It's clear that Cam's not doing well under him. It's clear that Cam's not happy in how things are going. Getting rid of him can only help Cam at this point, and the team. So they need to pull the trigger.
From the front office's perspective, Dakota, and the ownership's perspective, your number one goal right now shouldn't be winning this year. It shouldn't be anything other than Cam Ward's development. Right. That should be your number one goal. And if you know the head coach is not going to be around next year, it makes more sense. It's not like college, man. It's not like these dudes have huge buyouts. The best thing to do is to pull the Band-Aid as quick as possible and just reset. I think that's what the Titans need right now, man. They need a reset. Unfortunately, they didn't make the move this week, but I expect it to happen very soon. Another thing the last thing I'll say about this game is L'Jarius Sneed and his comments before the game. What a clown, man. Basically asked about Nico Collins and just hit him with a who. And then you informed me that Nico Collins had a 3rd and 33 converted?
30, yes. For a 37-yard reception.
That's not a good look, man. And they asked him about it.
It's not.
They asked him about post game and he was like, he's a good player. Like, yeah, I guess I know who he is now.
Yeah, he found out who he was, and we chatted about it before. We were like, yeah, there's no way this becomes bulletin material. We're hearing about it later, but no, of course it was. But yeah, and for what it's worth, I say we need to keep the front office. Bergonzi's draft this past year is looking pretty good with Cam, Alec, Gunnar Helm, especially all the offensive pieces that were added. But just get rid of the coach. Let's just get him out of the building before he does harm. And one of those things that just drove me mad is he had some, again, just not handling situational stuff. But maybe he may be one of the worst ever at it. And I think it's Ross Tucker, I think was the one calling the game.
Yes.
Mentioned when they talked to him that they talked about their Saturday game management meetings that they do. Okay. And I don't think I've ever rolled my eyes harder in that moment where I was like, you don't do that. And if you do, you're just sitting there saying nothing because it's not shown ever when you've been out there coaching. So I don't care about that. And then just a few other things. The Texans' offensive line is still an absolute problem. Jeffrey Simmons had a sack that looked like something out of Madden, where he literally didn't get touched. It was maybe one of the fastest through the NFL. Also, I watched that play multiple times, and the offensive linemen all step in different directions too. I don't think it was like duo play action either. I think no one knew what was going on. And CJ Stroud got insta-sacked by Jeffrey Simmons.
And when you're not playing the Titans, those things are going to matter more, as they've seen on the scoreboard. Yeah. I mean, they're 0-3 this year for a reason, with what we just said is maybe the best defense in the entire NFL. So they still have their problems. I thought Stroud looked okay despite that, though. I thought he had a decent game. But again, it's just like the offense as a whole is just – it has some serious problems. And I said last week, dude, I think we both said last week that – it's not one of those things that you can just snap and get fixed. Like I compared it to the Chiefs, I think, and how they kind of snap in the postseason. The Chiefs show that sometimes in certain games they can just say, hey, snap, it's done, it's fixed. We're going to put up 37 against the Ravens, whatever. The Texans are not going to be able to do that with this offensive line. It's not something that's getting fixed this year.
It's not, and the unfortunate thing is Stroud played well overall. There's still just like a few down to down throws where he just missed a dude in the flat. That I'm like, he didn't do that before, and I do think we're reaching that territory where this offensive line is getting in his, and it's making him throw in a panic manner a lot, and that's not good for his future and his development, continuing to become, a good quarterback in the league. And then two last things I just to shout out. Cam's pick's not really on him. I think it was Ellick that actually dropped this, but he had another classic drop. Thing that stood out to me the most on that play is that Cam Ward kind of like came up to him and dabbed him up after the play, just being a good leader, which is good to see.
Cam's always showed that, man. Always.
Dude, if that's literally the only thing I care about right now. And man, Cam Ward and the way he acted in that interview, I love that too. He's like, we suck. And he called himself ass at one point too. He said he's not playing well. So like he's fully owning it and being a leader, and I love that. They also used the virtual measurement in this game, which was really cool. I kind of hope they do that more because I don't want to go to video or, I don't want them to run a chain gang onto the field and wait a minute and a half of our lives.
I have liked the virtual measurement. It when they use it a lot during preseason. I do find it funny though how they're like, we'll use it in the Texans Titans 0-3 matchup. We'll experiment.
We'll try it.
Yeah, we'll experiment with it in this matchup.
See how these viewers feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Titans fall to 0-4, no surprise there, and Texans back to 1-3 to start fighting in the division with two 3-1 teams now though, so they've still got a ways to go to start competing in that division again.
They do.
All right, on to one of the better games. Eagles, to be honest, my analysis on this game was so different at one point than what it'll be now. Because I was like, man, this just looks like the best team in the NFL that's about to repeat as Super Bowl champs. And then in the second half, they had 0 passing yards in the second half. 0. Goose egg. And let the Bucs back in it.
Yep. More special teams in this game. The game started with that block punt.
Touchdown, yeah.
You're right, man. They were so dominant in the first half. And it was a lot of actually Jalen Hurts making plays to the pass game too. It kind of felt like, they've lost the last couple matchups to the Bucs, right? They lost in the regular season and they lost in the playoffs, and it felt like, hey, we need to come out hot early, and that felt like the game plan, and it was going well. But like you said, I think even though they didn't complete the comeback, one of the stories of the game is how Baker kind of surged this comeback, man. It was kind of unbelievable. I didn't expect that at all, especially against the defending champs who have been virtually unbeatable in the regular season the last couple of years, dude. I mean, they've been one of the most unbeatable teams. They had a dominant playoff run. But Baker just led this comeback, and it ended on a boneheaded Baker play. That's what you get sometimes with Baker, man. Like he leads this crazy comeback. All these crazy throws. That one to Ibuka was unbelievable. What an insane throw that was. God, tight window. But then he was just trying to do too much, which I kind of get why he's trying to do too much right now. It's like, even though they got Wirfs back in this game, they got Godwin back in this game, they've been undermanned. They still have Mike Evans out. They still have their other tackle out, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And so he's felt like he's had to do this a lot in this season, which he has. But on that play where he throws the pick, man, it's just like, just throw it away. You evaded the pressure. Just throw it away. You don't have to make a play on this play. But had they got that touchdown, they would have had a chance to get the 2-point and tie it, dude, in the fourth quarter. So that would have been unbelievable if they were able to complete this comeback.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where I was just kind of screaming no at Baker because he was breaking the tackles, and I was like, just throw it away, just throw it, live to the next down, and then bad. Because even if he had gotten a better throw off, there's just nothing positive.
There wasn't there, and the problem was Godwin called for it. What are you doing, God? Did you see him put his hand up? Godwin called for it. It's like, dude, you have 2 guys on you. What are you putting your hand up for? But even I'm not excusing Baker for that, though. I mean, you still have to see it yourself and throw it away. And the throw was just horrendous, too. It was like an absolute duck. Like, that thing was getting picked off no matter what, dude.
Jihad Campbell, too. I don't know if it was his first pick. It probably was of his career. And it was huge. Yeah, that throw to Ibuka, like that was kind of like the prime example of when you talk about an NFL window or throw. Like, to be honest, most probably aren't crazy enough to try that throw, and that's also where arm strength plays in. It's not how far you can throw it; it's also how quickly velocity. Can you get it Yeah,
Yep.
window closes, man. And if Tua had attempted that throw, probably would have
Pick.
been pick six. Like,
Yep.
let's be honest. Um, but yeah, this game was crazy because one thing too that I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to educate people on is like, don't just look at box score stuff when you hear things like Quinyon Mitchell was mirroring Egbuka, and he was, but that doesn't mean in zone coverage he's credited for anything Egbuka does, which that big touchdown was in zone. But when Quinyon was on Egbuka, he only gave up like 2 catches for like 7 yards or something. So that method worked pretty well. But yeah, this game, I mean, all credit to the Eagles. To be honest, the sad part in this is that they're winning these games and they're not even remotely playing to their level. And I kind of want to put the blame on Patullo. And I just saw an article where Jordan Mailata kind of threw shade at him quietly as well. Because when you watch them, man, like their play calling and decision just seems bizarre. It's like 2 straight runs and then a pass design where like AJ Brown is running 3 routes on the season so far.
Mm.
But Mailata said we have to do a better job up front. But also, if they're gonna load the box, let's see how we can pick them apart. Maybe we can run some play actions. Again, it starts with us, but if you look at the plays, we're 1 block away. That's just throwing shade at
It's
your
crazy.
OC a little bit.
It is, dude. That is throwing shade at the OC completely. It's crazy that offensive lineman would say that, especially when you're 4-0. Like you said
Yeah,
that when you're undefeated. It speaks to the standard that the Eagles have set,
Yes.
which is very impressive. And they've shown multiple ways to win. But you're right. A lot of the play calling has been weird. I know you want to shout out some of the play calling with the fake tush push. That was incredible.
Predicted.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You did. You talked about that in the preview show, and they've done it in the past. But this was even a different variation of it. And dude,
Yeah.
it's crazy because the Bucks, like you said they activated Desmond Watson, right?
I don't know if he was playing, but they did activate him. Yeah.
Well, it was very clear that the Bucks were doing a lot to stop the tush push. That was a big part of their game plan.
Yes.
And the Eagles had the perfect counter, man. The perfect counter because no one was touching Saquon. If that was in the middle of the field, Dakota, I think Saquon would have scored on the play. I mean, there was no one there. Of course, the Bucks may have played it a little bit differently if it was in the middle of the field, but yeah, outside of the fake tush push, which was nice. The offensive play calling has been weird because especially at times where it's like, okay, Hurts, we've criticized Hurts in the past, but Hurts can get it done through the air. I mean, you still do have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, which is one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire NFL. So they can get it done through the air, but it's felt like at times they haven't trusted him to do so. They haven't fed the ball to A.J. Brown enough, which I know that seems simple, but like sometimes, especially receivers like him, just a simple screen will get them going, man. Something just to get the ball in their hands, to get them warmed up. Receivers talk about that all the time. They just want the ball. And sometimes that'll get them more interested into the game. So, yeah, man, it has been weird. But despite all that, they are still 4-0, man. They found a way, despite looking shaky at certain points in these games.
And with Saquon only having 19 for 43 as well, and like 7 or whatever of that was on that touchdown. Off of the fake tush push. Yeah, and I have been very critical of Jalen Hurts consistently, but like he had 15 completions. AJ Brown has 2 catches. Devontae has 2 catches. John Mechie has 2 catches, which is crazy.
Why?
But 2 for 7 and 2 for 29 for your star duo. And I don't put it on Jalen, man. When you watch some of these plays and somebody showed every single that AJ Brown ran, and it's just basic stuff, man. Like the offense is just too vanilla from a passing game perspective. And I think that's making it difficult because at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts isn't Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts isn't Patrick Mahomes. But he's shown he can be successful. But when you're scheming up an offense this plain, it's pretty easy to stop and create it where like Jalen has to either throw a jump ball to somebody or something. So yeah, hopefully they can get the offense figured out. Again, to your point, it's not mattered. 4-0 right now with an offense that's not been as good as it should be, and they're still able to win. So if the offense can get it together, I mean, right now, the Eagles still look like one of the best teams in the NFL. They look like the defending champs. So, yeah, and then, it wouldn't also be an Eagles game without AJ tweeting something cryptic. He tweeted some, like, quote that had to do with withdrawing and stuff. Basically, like, they're not gonna.
This is what I'm talking about, man.
Just wild.
Like sometimes you just have to force a guy like that because he is going to win you football games this year. He was the big reason they came back against the Rams. You have to just force feed him the ball sometimes to keep him engaged in the game. And like offensive coordinators talk about all the time, Dakota, players over plays. They preach that kind of crap all the time. And sometimes I roll my eyes at it, but there's something to it, especially with a guy like AJ, who if he doesn't get his targets, he don't listen. Let's just we'll keep it a buck. Like Cam Ward says, AJ Brown don't give a shit about winning, dude. He just doesn't. He cares.
No.
He cares about his stats. Number one. Now maybe secondary's winning, but he wants his statistics, which, when you're an alpha receiver, we condone those kind of actions, right? We condone those kind of actions.
We encourage it.
Yeah, we encourage it. Exactly. We want that from our alpha number one receiver. So as a play caller, you have to know that, because listen, even if the OC understands that, hey, we can control this game, we can dominate this game on the ground, you still need to keep AJ Brown engaged, because there's going to be times in the playoffs where with big matchups like against the Rams where you're going to need him engaged. You're going to need him in the game. So yeah, that's something that they're going to have to keep in mind going forward.
His stats on the season, man, are ridiculous. He has 14 catches for 151 and a touchdown. He is averaging less than 40 yards per game and 3 receptions. That's just inexcusable from a game planning perspective
for AJ Brown.
And again, not putting that on Jalen. No, that is a game planning issue. So yeah, to be honest, basically the gist of this is the Eagles are going to be better. They're just going to keep getting better, and they've won. I think last week made them 7, or maybe it was this week made them 17. In their last season's worth of regular season games.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
They
don't lose. So last two things really quickly I want to shout out on this is, one thing when watching the Eagles too is it's like when the other teams are making good plays, it's like, man, this play design is really good. They've executed it. And somebody for the Eagles play defensively where they just blow it up. There was a screen that was perfect to Bucky that got blown up for just a 1-yard gain that was set up perfectly. And then that leads me into my other point. So for dude his ability to cut looks like somebody who's just really good on the stick in Madden. Like his ability to stop and go, like every running back has that like thing they're at, unless you're somebody who's like, like an AP who's good at everything. But like Alvin Kamara's got his contact balance where like he runs so low that people fall off of him. You've got Derrick Henry with the stiff arm and straight line speed. His is the ability to just cut. Like his ability to make people miss by cutting is insane.
It is, dude. Bucky Irvin is so good with his ability to make guys miss, and a guy that people, they kind of slept on him in the draft, man. What was he, a 4th or 5th rounder? He slipped because of his workout, but he's just good at football. An example of a guy who's just good at football. It hasn't showed up at all. He looks like a perfectly fine athlete on the field. So yeah, Bucky's been huge for the Bucs. Also, the last thing I'll say about the game, you mentioned earlier how Quinyon Mitchell was following Ibuka. Man, first of all, and I get he played well against Ibuka, but that says a lot about Ibuka that they're making Quinyon immediately follow him around. Baker was right in the offseason about Ibuka, man. He's a difference maker, dude. And to check that, my guys had a real interesting conversation, I think last week, talking about how this is why you don't draft for need. This is why if you feel like you have a position figured out with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, that doesn't matter. If you feel good about Micah Ibuka, you take him. And it's already shown this year to pay off in a massive way because they've needed Ibuka. First of all, right now he's the number 1 wide receiver because Mike Evans is hurt with his hamstring. So yeah, Ibuka's been huge.
It also says a lot about what people think of Chris Godwin at this point in his career, because this was his first game back, and they were like, "We're not worried about that old man. We're worried about that guy."
Yeah,
we're worried about that guy.
He's not the same, man. He's not the same after all those injuries.
But again, this is the exact moment where not drafting for need pays off too, where you now have, your rookie receiver who has 4 touchdowns on the season already. And then the offensive line, got to shut them out really quick. Looked a bit better with Wirfs back in the lineup and Barton moving back to his old spot. But yeah, Eagles moved to 4-0. Bucs are 3-1 with an interesting matchup next week against the Seahawks. So that'll be a fun one.
It should be.
All right, I say we're going to be quick on some, and then we're not. This is one kind of we'll be quick. Bills beat the Saints 31-19.
Saints
My
hung
main
tough.
takeaway is I'm growing a little concerned for the Bills defense because the
Yes,
Saints had numerous
very good
drives
point.
that ended like near the red zone, that fizzled out with a pick on the worst Philly special of all time, and I'll let you
Yeah.
say what you thought on it. And then there was also another turnover on a fourth, like just not converting on a fourth down where they had a chance. So like my only takeaway from this from the Bills perspective is the defense is a little leaky.
It is. It has been. It is grown to become a concern. They've really only had that one good performance against the Jets this year,
Yeah.
and that was kind of a concern of ours heading into the season. We were talking about the secondary a little bit, how
Yeah.
that could end up being a problem. So we'll see if they can figure it out. I mean, they have obviously they have Josh Allen on the offense, the offense has been fine, which we expected. But come playoff time, the defense could end up being a problem. Yeah, the Philly special play was hilarious. I texted you and told you that this was just open tanking. I felt like this was just like outright obvious tanking when you let your, historically concussed receiver throw a pass, and it was awful. I mean, it was one of the worst throws I've ever seen. He just completely lobbed it up. He expected, Rattler to go up and moss the whoever was guarding him. I don't know what. It was just an awful play. It didn't even look like they practiced it. It was just
No.
really really awful.
It was terrible, man. It was terrible, and that it summarized their day of just red zone woes, of them really shooting themselves in the foot, even on the last drive of the game. And again, Rattler has played relatively well, all things considered, but he did have Cooks and missed him a little
Yeah.
bit on a chance to take the lead late, or to sorry, it was when it was 21-16, so he would have been able to take a lead there. Josh Allen has his first turnover by the Bills in this game, which that's one where I kind of need to go look and see if they even count that as a turnover worthy play. He has 2 this year, so I can't tell. But it's one of those where like the safety just makes a play. Jonas Sanker comes flying over. He floated it a little bit, but it's like I don't know how much I put that on him. But then Josh Allen also had that pump fake that was just awesome, where he pump fakes and then manages to get in there. He also had a huge run later on, 7 yard. He juked a dude, had a stiff arm, like Derrick Henry out there running the ball.
Dude, yeah. I mean, Josh Allen is so fun to watch. I'm trying to check on your turnover worthy play. So he did have a turnover worthy play against the Saints. So I think they probably
So they
did count
counted
it.
that.
Yeah, they probably did count that. But yeah, I mean, Josh Allen and the pump fakes. It's crazy to me how people still bite on that. He uses that move a lot, that pump fake, and people bite on it every time. I mean, that's the thing with him though. It's like he uses so much of the field that at any point he can throw it. But you also have to be concerned with him using his legs, and he can obviously make guys miss in the open field. Just a fun player to watch, man. Josh Allen being Josh Allen. But yeah, I think the Bills overall, there are still concerns with this team. Because I mean, listen, the Saints have been feisty at times during this year. But after last week with the Seahawks, which I know a lot of that was special teams, I kind of expected the Bills to handle business here. I think
Took
I
him to
ended up,
cover.
yeah, I think I ended up taking the Bills to cover, didn't I? I changed it.
The 17, yeah.
Because we were both worried. We were like, man, is this too big of a
Yeah.
spread? But I ended up going to the Bills. Obviously, ended up getting that one wrong. There was a point in the game that the Saints looked like they could hang in there and maybe potentially take it into the second half and fourth quarter, but no, because they decided to do the Philly special and whatnot. But yeah, feisty Saints, but Bills did what they did.
Yeah, they were missing out Oliver in this too. I mean, the Saints just pounded the rock. They had more carries rushing than the Bills, which is insane in a game where you're losing for all of it. But they averaged 5.5 yards, 9 yards game. So Ed Oliver not being there was felt. And then one thing that's just noteworthy from this game, Bills become the first team to score 30 plus in the first 4 games of a season in back-to-back years. So
Dang.
Bills offense is elite. As long as the defense and they'll get healthy. The Bills are still the Bills, man. Only 2 undefeateds left. That's a moral of this week as well. Should have mentioned that in a previous matchup, but Bucks fall to 3-1. That was a battle of undefeateds. Win into this week with 6, only leave with 2.
That's
and it's
crazy.
Bills Eagles. which is
Yeah.
probably a lot of people's Super Bowl prediction preseason. So
Yeah, especially with the Bills and I mean, after they got past the Ravens, they opened up with a very favorable schedule after the Ravens
yes.
game. So,
And they get the Patriots at home on Sunday Night Football next week. So, all right. Moving on now to Commanders, Falcons. Falcons bounce back after getting blanked. And one of the probably we'll look back on as one of the most bizarre outcomes of the season.
yeah,
With the
really.
Panthers last week.
Yep.
But they bounced back in a game that we were also kind of predicting a little bit. This Commanders defense is not very good. Could have been a make right, and it was a make.
It was a make right. Zach Taylor and Michael Penix got it together. After a lot of people were kind of calling for Zach's job, they were not happy with how the offenses looked for a couple weeks in a row. But they ended up playing better. Got Drake London involved. I mean, Drake London still feels very underrated. Like when they actually intentionally get him involved and Penix can get him the ball, he looks really good. Kyle Pitts scored. I mean, Kyle Pitts signing. So good for Pitts.
Good for Pitts.
Good for Pitts. But it's one of those games that it's hard to project going forward because, like you said, this Commanders defense has been just really, really spotty all season long. So gonna be interested to see how their season plays out.
Yeah, and that's what happens when their defense's average age is up there, man. They've got some young bucks out there that are good, but you've also got Marshawn Lattimore, 2017 draft. You got Von Miller, 2011, Bobby Wagner, 2012. You got some old dudes out there that you're relying on. And yeah, but offensively, Mariota with an okay game. It's kind of the variance you expect after he looked really good last week to kind of come back down. He did leave a solid drive to keep the game interesting. He had a really nice touchdown throw on the 4th and 3 to make it a 1-score game. And they also were talking again, one of those opportunities of being able to talk about 4th down decision making and when you go for 2 and whatnot. And there was a good moment. The logic is you do it now so you know what you need.
Yeah.
You get more info the earlier you do it. So, yeah. I mean, this game was, to be honest, it was never really felt that close.
No.
The Falcons kind of had it under wraps, and Penix played well. He was very efficient. Had the 1 turnover in there, but Drake London went off, and Bijan had like 100 receiving yards. He had a 69-yard catch in there. So,
and it feels like those second-year sophomore quarterbacks, Dakota, have all become very similar players in the fact that they're just all very inconsistent. None of them have shown true consistency, which, I'll throw Jaden out of that. He's been hurt, and I'm not going to say Jaden's all of a sudden injury prone, but he does take a lot of hits. I will say that. He does take a ton of hits. So that's just something to watch going forward. But outside of Jaden, all these year 2 quarterbacks have, they've had their highs and they've had their lows. And Penix has shown that. I mean, he had maybe his worst performance of his career into, a solid performance the next week. So, but ultimately I agree with you. I mean, talk about the Panthers game last week, that will end up probably being one of the anomalies of the season. Cause I just think the Falcons are a better team than that. They should be a better offense. They have the weapons for it. So, but yeah, good bounce back win for them.
It moved to 2-2. They get a bye week now. They're one of the first to get the early bye. And then they get to face Buffalo on what I think is a Monday night game at 7:15, like tonight.
Yeah, they got a lot of double headers this season.
They do. They're at home for that, so the Bills getting to go into the Dome. That'll be an interesting matchup. The Commanders get at Chargers next week, so we'll see if Jaden's back.
It's a fun matchup.
And McLaurin. Terry was also out of this game, so it's worth noting that. They're missing their starting quarterback and wide receiver and lose by a touchdown, so that does feel okay. Defense is worrying, which we predicted that. All right. Moving along to the biggest upset of the weekend. In his debut, Jackson Dart makes defense play better, and he gets the win. He gets the win against the Chargers to take down one of those unbeaten.
That's going to be my opening line, is how he elevated the defense. I don't know, man. I don't want to take away from it because he had some great moments, and I will say there is something to just like, it's kind of like the interim coach bump. There's something to changing the quarterback. It just motivates the rest of the squad. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he had some good moments in the game. I was the biggest takeaway for the Giants since they won. I'll give them their credit first is their D line and their defense just really, I mean, just really shut down Herbert and the Chargers, which no one has been able to do up until this point. So that I was very impressed by that. And again, Dart had his moments, and on offense though for the Giants, two notable things. Obviously, Neighbors goes down with the ACL. That's tragic for them.
Yeah.
And dude, more Cam Scatterboo, man. They were feeding
They
Scatterboo.
fed this man.
Is that the most carries by a running back this season? Because I feel like it might be.
It very well could. 25. It very well could.
We never see 25 carries for a running back in this day and age, man. If I had to guess, that's probably the highest carry total for a running back this season.
I watched, and towards the end of it, man, I was looking at him too, and I'm like, this dude's, he's going through it, man, because they knew they were running the ball too, and they were selling out. Dart with 10 carries, I think Sam said it on Check the Mic. It was such an interesting game plan because, like, when you watch Jackson Dart in college, the dude's not just like this mobile quarterback.
No, he really
he's
wasn't.
athletic. And like they treated him like he was Tim Tebow or Johnny Manziel out there, trying to game plan around him running the ball, which was interesting. But he handled it well. I think, a few things in this game that kind of changed the momentum was the Dexter Lawrence batted ball INT early. Lad McConkey, I think, is the one that tackled him that prevented a touchdown, which led to a field, which was huge early on because it kept the game a little bit closer at times. Herbert had gone 396 passes on the road without an interception before that, and it really wasn't even his fault. And they also had an immediate false start. I noted that after they had that. So it's like they got down to 2 and then started pushing them back, which is why they ended up not scoring. Another thing that's just tragic for the Chargers in this game is that Joe Alt got carted off and was in a walking boot afterwards. So that is massive for a team missing Rashawn Slater already. That could be a thing that derails what looked like a promising season for the Chargers.
Yeah, that's absolutely a crucial loss, especially like you said with Rashawn Slater already being out and Joe Alt as looking like the best pass protecting tackle in the NFL. Not good at all for the Chargers whatsoever. Because, like you said, man, I think people don't understand how much offensive line play impacts an offense, man, especially when you're 2 tackles out. I mean, we've seen that with some of the offenses throughout the league this year, and especially when those are elite tackles. I mean, those are 2 of the best tackles in the NFL. So that could sadly, like you said, that could be a big impact for the rest of the Chargers season. Is it confirmed that he's like out for the year, or is it?
Let me actually see, because it was bad enough that he got carted off. He boot immediately.
Yeah, if he's carted off and in a boot, that's not a good sign whatsoever for them. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. That's a very tough loss. And I'll keep talking about the Giants here. I was really impressed with Brian Burns in this game. He had a sack in this game where, I mean, dude, he looked explosive on that sack. I mean, yeah, so explosive. He looked so fast on that sack. So the Giants D line, it's starting to make their impact. I said, preseason, that's like, dude, this D line is so loaded that it could just end up winning games for them. And it's not that simple. That's not the only reason they won this game, but it was a massive reason they won this game.
Yeah.
Made a huge impact. So yeah, I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from the Giants perspective.
Yeah, Abdul also had a play in there that was ridiculous where he, on a stunt, just came screaming in after block shedding and was flying in. So it's diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, confirmed by an MRI today. But they're apparently looking for a second opinion to determine how long, but it is expected to be several weeks. So they will be out with a bit. So no starting tackles. Good luck, Justin Herbert.
It's also brutal for them, but right when the Chiefs get hot too, man. Like the Chiefs have, they've had a couple games to get right.
We just talked. We were like, it's their division to lose. We blink on a game like this, and now they're only a game ahead of in the division.
I know, man.
And part of my notes, I just wrote NFL, man. Sweep division, lose to Giants.
I know.
Like, this is the NFL.
So true, dude. It's so true. And it's really a game that they could have won too. I don't know. It's
even
tough.
With all the
even with all of it, they had a chance to win in the end. So, but yeah, like you said, that's the NFL, man. Like this is one of those results I did not expect whatsoever, but it's what happens in the league.
Yeah. Marion Hampton had a beautiful, like, 54-yard touchdown run in this game, and they didn't give him enough carries. Like, I know that's one of them, but he had 12 for 128. No other running back touched the ball, by the way, in this game. Just a bizarre. Well, I say that back. Scott Matlock, who's like a fullback. A couple dudes were like fullbacks, but no running back had a carry in this game other than a Marion Hampton. Quentin Johnston breakout seems to be legit as well. He is playing very well. That touchdown before the half was huge, and a great throw as well. Yeah,
it's what kept him in the game, really. And I mean, the throw was great, but Quentin Johnson made an absolutely beautiful play on it to score. And yeah, I mean, he's been their number one receiver, man. Like, which is nuts because he was there last year with Ladd in the breakout. It's not like this is I don't know. It's very weird. In the same exact system, he was there. But second year in the system, he is just completely broken out. And is finally catching the ball and is making a massive impact for them. Who knows? Maybe Herbert and Johnston can get them through all being out, but because it's, I mean, the Chargers were one of the stories of the season for us. I think they've been a fascinating story this year, but yeah, congrats to the Giants and Dart, man. He elevated that defense. He's handing the ball off to Scatterboo, making some plays in the run game. Last thing I'll say about this game, Dakota, is the hilarious video that you sent, and I actually saw it before you sent it. But Russ in the locker room just giving Dart the absolute death stare. Clearly,
he's giving a speech like a leader already too.
Yeah, exactly. Which is Russ's thing, by the way. That's like Russ's thing. So that was eating Russ alive. I got a shout out with that, and I'm not like, I get it from Russ's perspective. I'd probably be the same way. But shout out to a guy like Jameis, who was kind of probably expected to fight for the job, right? He probably expected to fight for it. He ended up becoming the third string guy. Jameis has been nothing but supportive for Dart, man. Like, he's tweeting after the game, showing that thing from preseason of Dart eating Jameis's W. It's just, Jameis has been nothing but supportive, been a leader, and wasn't giving Dart the absolute death stare after the press conference or during the post game celebration.
Yeah, Jameis is just such a fun dude, man. And I do feel like him and Dart have seem like brothers at this point, the way they hang out and whatnot. It's been really cool to see. Couple quick things just on the game flow here that I had written down that I want to talk about too is that, when they scored when it was 13-10, they had a penalty. There was a personal foul on the Chargers, and Dabo decided to take it to the one and went for two in that moment and made it an 11-point game, which I just thought was such a smart decision to do in that moment. And then Dart, on 3rd and goal, when it was 21-18, I hated the decision to run the ball on 3rd and goal, but they went for it on 4th and goal. So I was like, okay. And Dart actually made what I thought was a decent throw. I think it was Wandell that dropped it because he got hit. But that ended up being a big moment in the game because it kept it a field goal game, and that touchdown would have put it away. But I thought Dart made a decent throw on that play. And then two things with Dart. When he threw the touchdown pass to Theo, they had like a handshake that was one of the most elaborate handshakes I've seen. That was really cool. And then the way that Dabo reacted.
Oh, I know.
These guys love him, man. Like, this team rallied behind him, and it says a lot. It says a lot.
You know what it is? It's because they're seeing the Instagram reel edits from Dart. It's all the TikTok edits, dude. He has some of the most legit TikTok edits out there for some reason, despite being, he was a solid college quarterback. He wasn't one of the best ever. He was pretty good. But you're right. I think, and that is why we're joking about him elevating the defense. But there might be a little something to it, like energizing the team, right? He energized the squad in a way that Russ clearly wasn't. And, he wasn't the best, throw to throw, but, maybe it's like a little bit of a Tim Tebow factor, Dakota, where that won't matter as much, and he'll just elevate the team, and they'll find a way to win in these games, in close games.
That's all it takes. Chargers get the Commanders next week, and then the Giants go to New Orleans in the Dome, which is a game we had talked about, like, maybe made more sense to wait to start Dart, but now it could just be him rolling. So Taysom Hill is back, so keep an eye out for that somehow. The 35-year-old tight end that could change that game. So
tight end H back.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them. All right, last one of the 1 p.m. window. We'll try to be quick on this one as well. Lions blow out the Browns. This game was kind of close in the first half, but it never felt close for
It
any
didn't.
moment.
It did not.
Yeah, Flacco throws a couple of picks in there. One of them was horrible and like a throwaway thing that he did that receiver wasn't even remotely in the area that Kirk tapped. He had an unfortunate one where Jerry Judy fell down. But yeah, overall, rough outing for the Browns here, and the Lions keep rolling.
They are rolling. That offense in particular, I'll say probably my biggest takeaway from this game, dude, was the pre-game talk of like the Lions saying, "Oh, we run the ball on everybody," and then the Browns kind of taking offense to that. It felt like the Lions were trying to make a statement. Specifically, I remember one moment on the goal line, the Lions were trying to punch it in there. They kept running into a brick wall. The Lions actually did a pretty good job of stopping the run game, specifically Montgomery. Montgomery was completely shut down. But like the Lions wanted to beat them at that so bad. But whenever they were finally like, okay, we're just gonna run the offense like we should. They cooked the Lions in a lot of situations, like Amon-Ra in the goal line. So that was kind of interesting. And yeah, I mean, overall, the Lions offense is just, I mean, it's outside of week 1, which it felt like the Packers just had a really good performance. Their offense is as good as last year, man. They have not seen a drop off. They're still getting all the weapons involved. And they dominated a game that they should have dominated.
Yeah, I'll take week 1 as a learning curve for the new OC, the offense getting it together, being a little nervous because it's been good since. The offense has been rolling. Judkins has looked solid since he's decided to play football. He has looked really good. He stood out. Isaiah Bond actually led them in receiving, so the rookie's getting involved. Goff had a pretty bad interception in this game. It was kind of which is good for him. Waste that Goff
Against the
moment
Browns
on a game that doesn't matter. Exactly. And then Khalif Raymond, special teams, man. Khalif Raymond punt return touchdown that made it 27-10. One thing that stood out on that I just have to note is how athletic punters look sometimes, because it's like you're basically wasting a body on the field. If you had a punter that was at least just remotely an athlete, he probably makes that tackle there. Like he literally was in feet of him and just had no effort at tackling the guy, which was embarrassing. And then, Aiden had a strip sack in there. Also had that down where he looked to be injured, and all the fans were like, they showed the fans in the stands. They were like, not again, the PTSD. But in the interview, he's just like, dude, I just got the breath knocked out of me. I couldn't breathe, man. I was just trying to get it together.
Speaking of Aiden, he played really well in this game.
Yeah.
He's a dominant force, man. And yeah, it's gonna be, dude, the Lions all of a sudden, like we've been hyping up the Packers because of that week 1 performance. And the Packers are still good. We'll get to them later. But if they do stay healthy on that defensive line and Aiden does stay healthy and the offense continues to look like they look, the Lions are as much of a threat as they were last year, man. Like as much of a threat as they were last year with the number 1 seed. I don't know if they'll get the number 1 seed again. It's a tougher division this year. But man, it's intriguing, especially come playoff time if everyone's healthy.
And they got a tough stretch coming up. Would have been a lot tougher if Joe Burrow didn't. But they've got at Cincinnati, at Kansas City, versus the Bucks, versus the Vikings, at Washington, at Philly. So they've got quite a gauntlet coming up here.
They do.
There'll be some really good matchups in there as well. A couple of those on primetime as well. Back-to-back of those will be on primetime, so that'll be nice. The Chiefs game, I think, is on Sunday. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That could be a great game.
And then one thing I took note of in here that I was thinking about this when college football, and then it happened with Joe Flacco. Time to rant about it. Why do we do boots to the left? Why do we do any play action boots, rollouts to the left?
Definitely.
Because I would say that the success rate on those plays has to be fractional, like nothing, because quarterbacks rolling, we'll say it non-dominant more specifically. But Goff had one that was just pathetic, man. Like him, why in the world would you ever want to try to get him rolling back?
40-year-old Flacco, what are you doing?
There was a guy in his face immediately. He's trying to get turned around, can't, and like those college plays. They missed the throw by 10 yards, dude. It's just, why are we doing that? It's not a successful play.
The thing that kills me in college, which just happens in NFL too, is the boot action on the goal line when you're cutting off half the field, and
Yep.
the quarterback the
If
goal line's
especially doing
already
it to the
shrunk.
field as well,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
the boundary. I mean,
The goal line's already shrunk. Why would you shrink it even more by cutting off half the field? It makes no sense whatsoever.
it makes none, man. And then watching Flacco do it, and then the play being dead, it's like you
It's
literally
just
just wasted
pathetic.
it down. You
Yeah.
just wasted it down. That's all you did, man. But yeah, Lions improved to 3-1 though.
Yep.
Browns fall to 1-3. All right, moving on to the 4 o'clock window. This had some really good games in it. And this was probably the worst game of the window. Chiefs
Yes.
just blow out the Ravens, just absolutely dominated the Ravens. Really from start to finish, man. Like the Chiefs offense, Xavier Worthy comes back, and apparently that's all it took for them to just take off. And Mahomes had one of his best performances in a bit, to be honest.
He did. He really did. I mean, we were sitting here questioning, are they going to be able to flip that switch like they have in the postseason offensively? And they did it in this game, man. And I got to start with giving the Chiefs credit because they deserve the credit.
Yep.
They got a couple of their guys back, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and they both made plays.
Yep.
Xavier Worthy, man, he's intriguing, dude. He's intriguing me. When he plays, he is an X factor for this offense, and a real difference maker. And it's not just the deep ball, like it's not just using his speed to go deep. It's a lot of the underneath stuff as well. And like you said, man, it felt like I won't call it a Mahomes get right game. It just felt like a hey, I'm still Mahomes. Like I can put up four touchdowns, 0 picks whenever I want, kind of thing. And this is a game that they needed. I mean, the story in this game, Dakota, was we have 1-2 teams, and one of them is going to be 1-3 and put themselves in a real hole in their respective divisions, and specifically in the AFC playoff race as far as seeding is concerned. So really, both teams needed this one, and the Chiefs were the team that rose to the occasion on both sides of the football. By the way, their defense showed out, and I think that's the more impressive part of this. Despite Mahomes and the Chiefs offense getting right, because the Chiefs defense were up against the Ravens, who have been good offensively all year. The Ravens defense, however, has been awful all season long, pretty much.
Terrible.
Which is one of the shocks of the season, frankly. But the fact that they were able to shut down Lamar, which I know historically they have done a really good job with Lamar, one of the few teams that really the only team that does a really good job with Lamar. But they did it once again, man, even though the Ravens desperately needed this game.
They did, and yeah, it's a concerning thing. My preseason prior to looking terrible right now for the Ravens because this defense is not good.
Same here, dude. I thought they were going to be the best in the league. Awful take.
Terrible, man. 131 points scored, which is one of the best in the NFL, and then 133 points against. They're like first in both categories. So the offense has been trying. This game, they shut down. But yeah, credit to the Chiefs defense. They've always done a good job of maintaining Lamar. This is also one of those instances where things just kind of away. There was a great D-hop catch that was negated by an illegal, which was, I found it ironic because it was the right tackle being off the ball when like Jawan Taylor is like the king of that for the Chiefs. Lamar's interception was unfortunate. And then there was an unnecessary roughness penalty that was added to that just pushed the Chiefs further down. But yeah, the thing that stood out was Worthy. So that shot to him early. He had an end around play that was big before the half. And this was his career high on receiving yards, dude. First game back, immediately hits a career high. So, and he had what, like 121 yards of offense for the Chiefs between his carries and that. So it got him involved instantly. Brown compliment well, Travis kind of doing his thing. But yeah, the offense was clicking.
They still have Rashee Rice coming back too, man.
Yeah.
Like once Rashee Rice is back, all of a sudden it's like, dang, I kind of like this group of pass catchers. And you still have Tyquan Thornton starting to play really well and making a difference in this offense. So it's a deep group of pass catchers once everyone's healthy. Travis Kelce was making plays again, like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, if Mahomes and the Chiefs can keep this going, which part of me is worried, Dakota, because it's starting to feel like that they can flip the switch whenever they want, but they need to be motivated to do so. And it's easy to get motivated when you're playing Lamar and the Ravens, right? This is going to be a
Yeah,
potential playoff
yeah,
matchup. We really needed it. We're in a big hole. The question is, can they do this when they're playing a random game against the Raiders, right? And they it's like a game. Oh, on paper we should easily win this game. Raiders defense is terrible. We should be able to do whatever they want. Question is, can they do it in those games where it's like, not as much is on the line?
that's a really good point. And we'll find out. Yeah, leaving this game is a little tough for the Ravens. Lamar gets the hamstring injury. Matabuke's out for the season, I think, is what they already found out. They had a lot of
Ooh.
guys that get hurt. So this season could unravel quickly for the Ravens. Going into this matchup, it was one of these teams will leave 1-3. And unfortunately, it's the Ravens, and this season could get out of hand quickly for them, which is really unfortunate. A couple other things just to shout out in this. Just the 250th touchdown from Holmes, which is really intriguing. Youngest to hit the mark, not play time, but youngest in age, which says a lot because he literally missed an entire season when he started the year, his career.
Yep.
So, and then something that just cracked me up because again, the whole, Derrick Henry fumbling thing. Tony Romo did a segment like breaking down ball security, and it just a quarterback and also him of all people, it found it hilarious how to carry the football by a quarterback who didn't ever run with the ball. It just felt so awkward to me of him and him like
Yeah.
preaching it to the people. It was weird.
Especially when Derrick Henry historically is actually okay.
Doesn't fumble.
Not doesn't fumble, man. It's very odd, and of course that had nothing to do with this game. Yeah, that's very weird that he did that. The Lamar injury was a little weird. Like the way he came off the field, it
Yeah.
almost at first, because the announcers were even like, is he just like checking out of the game? Or I think it was like Scott Hansen because he wasn't hearing the announcers. It almost felt like he was just checking out of the game because like he wasn't getting medical attention or anything like that. And it was still close enough where it's like, okay, we could lead a comeback in this situation. So it wasn't just like he was getting rested. It was a little odd. But if this is a long-term thing for the Ravens, that's detrimental for the season, obviously, especially with how their defense is playing. Like, I don't expect them to win games with a backup quarterback at all, with how their defenses looked.
No.
And you take away Lamar, the two-time MVP. Like, I don't see that happening. And from that perspective, it's like, man, now that you're 1-3, like you've dug this hole for yourself, you really can't afford a couple losses right now. So it's going to be intriguing to see if this is a long-term thing for Lamar, or if he's going to be back next week, and if it lingers, because hamstrings tend to linger.
I do wonder if it was one of those things to your point too, like if the game was closer then, or like it was later in the season, would he have played through what it was? I guess we'll find out this week. But yeah, if it's man, the Ravens season may be over soon.
Yeah.
They get Houston in Baltimore next week, which is kind of a make right game for your defense with how bad the Texans' offensive line is. If your defense still looks bad, then you may be done. If you lose that game, to be fair, like you drop to 1-4, your season's probably over for the most part. I mean, they could easily go on a run, capable of it, but that's a tough hole to dig out of. And then I got to point out something that happened with Mahomes. He had one of the worst illegal forward passes I've ever seen. I don't know if you saw it play where like he literally like ran 3 yards downfield and then went back behind the line of
Yeah, I
scrimmage
did.
and threw it.
It's
Just
like, yeah,
cracked me
you
up.
can't go back behind the line of scrimmage, dude.
And then do it.
It's almost like a 3-point shooter, like stepping up like outside of the, like inside the 3-point line and then stepping back. It's like, no, you
Do a
can't.
step back.
You can't do that in football, dude. Yeah, you just brought up the Texans matchup. The one thing I'll say about that is we just got done talking about how good their defenses looked, and the Ravens
That doesn't help.
Yeah, the Ravens offense just struggled in this game. Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Like that feels like a must win, and I agree with you. Like they can dig themselves out of a hole, but when we're talking about 1-4, like at that point. That's a tough hole to dig out of, especially if you want to try to fight for a top seed. I think that's
Right.
almost out of the question already. But if you're 1-4, it's for sure out of the question.
And that's the point. Like, if you are digging out of it, more than likely, our team going on the road, and the Steelers have won the division. So, like, your battle is even going to be more uphill than normal trying to go through the AFC, and that's tough, especially with the defense this bad. Chiefs go to Jacksonville on Monday Night Football next week, so that'll be an interesting game. The Jags have defense specifically, and we'll talk about them in a second. It's actually been pretty solid.
It has.
So we'll see. Moving on now to what man, I'm a fan of a rival team, but even I was frustrated watching this because the Colts let one slip through their fingers, or more specifically, Adonai Mitchell did.
Yeah, Adonai Mitchell was throwing this game. Yeah, man. I'll start with the Rams. Give them credit. Stafford made the plays in the big moments, man. Before the half and at the end of the game, Dakota, 2 massive touchdown drives that he led. He's probably been the best quarterback in the league this year. Absurd to say, considering he was dealing with the back in the preseason. And we said, hey, it's possible that Stafford does this because look at the weapons around him, look at the team, and Stafford himself is just a really good player. All that has come to fruition, man. This Rams team is an absolute threat. And if Stafford plays like this, they can beat anyone. I mean, I go back. It's tough. I go back because I kind of like the Rams. I go back to last week with the Eagles. You just let that one slip, man. Like, you could be fighting for this number 1 seed. You let that one slip away. They're going to be kicking themselves over that one because that was an extremely winnable game for them, and they were probably the better team for most of the game. Specifically the first half. But yeah, so give Stafford credit. Devontae Adams has been an incredible pickup. I didn't know how he would work in the number 2 role with Puka. It's worked beautifully, man. It's worked absolutely beautifully. And then Puka. I can't say enough good things about Puka,
my God.
Man.
13 for 170.
Unreal, dude. He is unreal. He does everything. He does everything. You can hit him deep down the field, but you can also give him a screen and let him make guys miss. Puka has become easily top 5 receiver in the league, and he's in the conversation this year in particular for the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. He really has, dude. He had 15 targets, catches 13 of them for 170. He has been absolutely unstoppable because, like, the ball, is going to him still. But this little trio of weapons with, even Tutu, who had the big touchdown. But him and Devontae have worked too. But Tutu has been out of his mind. And Stafford, if you don't count Mariota, who's still somehow played really well in that, passing grade wise per PFF, Matt Stafford's number 1 right now. Highest graded quarterback passing wise. So the back injury was either a bunch of mirrors, or he recovered, or he is just juiced out of his mind during
I
games.
also just think he's a tough mother effer, dude. I mean, that's just who Stafford is. That's who Stafford.
Yeah, I mean,
Stafford is.
Yeah, he's literally like destroyed his shoulder and then gone out and thrown a 2-point conversion for a win and stuff. Like, the dude's a competitor. He competes like he's a linebacker. It's the way he plays football as a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, we'll spend some time now on Adonai Mitchell's blunders. So this game was a lot of Colts kind of had it in control, to be honest, for a good portion of it. And there was 3 key plays. One of Adonai Mitchell's plays is kind of not getting talked about enough, and I don't think it led to points. I can't remember for sure, but Danny Jones's interception in the first half was on a play where A.D. Mitchell just made no attempt to come back to the ball, and they just kind of let the safety jump and take it. And then you have the worst play of the year right now, candidate. He makes a beautiful catch, insane catch, one-handed, really. Spins around
with a guy on top of him.
And then runs down the sideline, misses a guy late, and then goes to extend the ball for no reason.
Well, it was a celebration. It was a celebration.
Exactly.
That's what
and
it was.
And then it fumbles into the end zone, touchback, which was a massive momentum swinging play.
As a Colts fan, I was not very happy with A.D. Mitchell in this moment, especially when he's a guy with talent, man. He showed it on that play. He's got the talent to make a difference in this offense. And he made it unbelievable. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Ron Williams' catch against Georgia last year. Just like on the sideline. Makes a tough guy with a defender on him, has the contact balance to stay up and then stays up and scores. But then he fumbled it away. I mean, we had a very similar play last year with JT against the Broncos. That could have potentially got us into the playoffs with
True. Yeah.
JT just dropping it. Now I give JT a pass because he's really good. Jonathan Taylor's really good. He's really good in this game. Speaking of AD Mitchell blunders,
There's your third.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'll go over to the third, which is Jonathan Taylor has an incredible run. Which, again, I mean, Jonathan Taylor's been probably one of the best backs in the league this year, if not the best. And then AD Mitchell has a holding call that causes it to come back. Just a baffling
in the fourth quarter late too, and it was 20-20.
No, I know it was on our game-winning drive. It could have been a game-winning drive for the Colts, and at the it would have given Stafford enough time to go tie it, but we would have had the touchdown. To potentially win the game. Yeah, man. And I don't know how much it impacted the play either. That's one of the brutal ones where it's like, I don't know how much it impacted scoring, which it's like, dang, you didn't even have to really do it. And so, yeah, man, AD Mitchell, shows the talent. He makes the beautiful catch, but he has all these blunders where it's like, dude, what are you doing? You're costing your team a victory potentially. And I don't know if I think the touchdown catch that would have swung the momentum in the Colts' favor, in my opinion, and probably would have made it where, okay, we might go on to win this game. You never know with Stafford, though. The game flow would have changed and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, you could make the argument, Dakota, that AD Mitchell was the difference between winning and losing this football game.
Yeah, the game would have been 17-13 on that play. And then they scored on the first drive of the fourth quarter. Could have been a 24-13 lead. You combine that with what was an unfortunate series. Again, the Colts just shot themselves in the foot. AD Mitchell did a lot of it, but this one particular forced a fumble on the first drive after that touchdown drive to take the 17-13 lead.
Didn't have to settle for a field goal.
Offensive pass interference on Tyler Warren, which, they even debated on the broadcast where it's like, if a dude is just standing in your way as a receiver, it kind of just went through him. But that pushed them back and then led to them just settling for a field goal, which in the end kind of ended up being a big difference as well. Just unfortunate kind of game flow. But at the end of the day, I still think it's a massive positive watching this Colts team play. They are a good football team, dude.
The offense is still really good. The offense in particular.
Unstoppable at times still in this game. So against a very good defense. Very good.
Yeah, exactly. Against a really good defense. That's I think that is the positive for Colts fans. The offense still looks really, really good. Defensively, it's tough. It's a tough assignment. You have Stafford and all those weapons. I'm not going to count that against him too much. Although, the defense the defense isn't elite by any means, no question about it. It might be average at best. The pass rush is still a problem for the Colts. There's just virtually no pass rush right now, which is really unfortunate. On the flip side of that, though, Jared Verse probably had his best game of the year. Had a huge impact. He obviously had the I think he caused the strip sack, but I think we recovered it. But either way, he's obviously been he's been phenomenal all year, but he finally gets the stats to back it up. And then Brian Young continues to be really good. Rams defensive line in general. I mean, I know I'm a Colts fan, but I want to give Rams proper credit because I feel like, dude, it's them and the Eagles, I think, right now that have set themselves apart in the NFC. Maybe one of those NFC West teams we'll have to see, or excuse me, they are in the West, but maybe Seattle also in the West can potentially make some noise. But I still believe more in the Rams just because I think they have the right players at the right positions, quarterback, wide receivers, defensive line. They are elite at all three of those positions. So, yeah, man, the Rams are going to be a real threat in the NFC.
Yeah, and I will say overall, the Rams' defensive front was still good, but man, there were still multiple times in this game where I was like, that is a pristine pocket against a defensive line that doesn't happen a ton against. Yeah, and that again gives me hope for this team going Colts is that, man, if you can give your guy that much time against this defensive front, you're feeling pretty good. And then Tyler Warren still looks phenomenal.
I was going to say
the fullback dive on 4th and 1 with him for the touch, really cool. This was just an epic game. And then the last thing, because again, this is kind of a series of shots to themselves. The 88-yard touchdown. So solid punt by the Colts backed up
Yep.
the Rams to the 12, and then literally the first play, Colts
Blown
DB
coverage.
falls down.
Yep.
Yeah. Falls down, gets his feet
Was it-
tangled, touchdown. And there's only 10 guys on the field. I don't know if you saw that, but that's also pretty trigger. There's only 10 guys on the field for that, but
Ooh, I didn't
fell.
see that. That's
I saw
brutal.
that. I didn't want to send it to you to rub salt in the
It's fine,
guys
dude.
on the field.
It happened.
Lou Anarumo, yeah, but 88-yard
Yeah.
touchdown first play because of the DB falling is pretty unfortunate.
It is, yeah, it is unfortunate. I think it was Cam Bynum who fell, which he's been pretty good. I could be wrong about that. But yeah. I mean, the Rams made the plays in the big moments, and the Colts found a way to shoot themselves in the foot a lot. I just want to give proper credit because the Rams were good in this game.
And Stafford when they needed it, yes.
But to your point,
elite.
dude, I think they've played two good defenses now, and I know the Colts only scored 20. They are a good offense. This is just a good offense. And Daniel Jones didn't have his best game, but there's so many weapons on this team. Without Alec Pierce in this game, by the way, I think that's why we saw more A.D. Mitchell. So many weapons on this team that the offense is just going to be good going forward, which is at least encouraging. I do have to note, like you did, though, Tyler Warren, man, he is a difference maker, dude. And Shane Steichen, I feel like Steichen has been one of the best, potential head coaches for Tyler Warren because he's been able to use him in all these different ways, and he's not scared to use him in all these different ways. Of course, he had the touchdown as a fullback. Just been really fun to watch Tyler Warren. I think that's been one of the big reasons, too, this Colts offense has been elevated.
Yeah, and the positives for the Colts offense, literally left 14 points on the field. And it's the Adonai Mitchell one even more to Jonathan Taylor because the holding penalty, you can blame it on that, but Adonai Mitchell literally left a touchdown on the field.
Oh, yeah, 7 points.
So only scored 20, but could have been 34. But again, credit to the Rams because, Stafford has been playing out of his mind this year.
Yes,
and every time he needed to make a play in this, like to your point before the half, he did it. And he did it, and it was,
Stafford's always felt like that kind of player, though. I mean, he felt like he feels like the kind of player that does show up in those big moments. The issue with Stafford has been like down to down, throw to throw consistency throughout a season. He's had that this year. He's had that, and if he stays healthy, man, like I'm telling you, I don't know how good the Eagles are, but I still feel like even with that game between the Eagles and Rams, I think the Rams are a serious threat.
Outside of, again, Mariota, biggest big-time throw percentage in the NFL per PFF. He has 12 5-turnover-worthy plays, which matches Dak. Him and Dak are leading.
Crazy.
But dude's just slinging it.
Just slinging that thing. So it's probably the best. I mean, a top 5 wide receiver duo, if not number 1, with how Devontae's playing. It's a really good group of pass catchers.
Yeah, Colts moved to fall to 3-1. Jags now tied, who will go to for the top of the division. But they get a couple better matchups going forward to get the Raiders and Cardinals at home going forward. And then the Rams get the 49ers taking on a division opponent. So
it's a big one.
We'll see. It's a big matchup. All right.
Sane's in the chat here calling
AD.
Yeah, calling AD Mitchell to go. Thanks for rubbing salt in the wound, Daniel. Appreciate that. We'll get to your Packers in a minute.
Yeah, the thrilling tie. It was a really good game. All right, Jags 49ers. Jags get the win. I think 49ers injuries to them, but to be honest, man, I think we've been critical of the Jags, and their offense is still just not it for the most part. But man, the defense has forced 3+ turnovers in all 4 games.
It's working right now, man. It's working. And I think, Trayvon Walker has become more of a useful player. Is he living up to number 1 pick potential? No. But he's become a very useful player outside of Josh Hines-Allen. It's a really good duo of pass rushers. I have to give Purdy credit for this game. It felt like they got down early, but Purdy was like keeping him in it. Like he was doing everything he could. And you don't really see Purdy as that kind of player, right? In the Kyle Shanahan system, you see him more of as a system quarterback. But when Purdy needs to he can make plays and keep his team in it. Him and CMC were doing everything they could. Also, shout out to Juwan Jennings. He made a crazy 2-point conversion
Yeah,
catch, getting hurt
lost
on
his
that
rib.
play.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think it was a kidney shot, maybe rib too.
brutal.
He got a little bit of all of it on the side. It was a brutal shot to the side that he took, but came down with the catch. Juwan Jennings, if you know, you know the Vols. He's a dog, dude. He's always been a dog. So but yeah, credit to the Jags. I thought Trevor Lawrence started the game better. Like in the
Mhm.
first half, him and Brian Thomas were getting it going. But like as you said, like in the second half, because really this is another game where a team got out to a lead, Dakota, and then they just let the team stay in it. And it's because the Jags couldn't make the plays in the second half to kind of put the game away. There's still more to be desired, but I think since they are winning, dude, and we've seen it from Trevor in the past. We've seen it from Brian Thomas in the past. Travis Hunter's still there, see what he can do. I think they could potentially put it together. And again, it's the morale of winning. There's a big difference when you're 3-1 versus 1-3. It can really help and boost your performance going to the rest of the season.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree, man. Early on in the game, Travis Etienne had a touchdown in there. Travis Hunter had a 28-yard catch. That was a really good play by him specifically. Wasn't a great throw. And then yeah, Purdy, man, Purdy tried his best to keep them in there, and he had the 2 interceptions. He had a fumble. The one pick early on was really unfortunate. It was a decent throw out of pressure, and CMC kind of bobbled it. It's been a lot of those this year, man, where like a dude has a chance to catch and just kind of hands it to it. So that was unfortunate. But the Jags' run game specifically in the first half looked really good.
It's also looked really good
yeah,
all year, by the way. I mean, that's one pause about their offense. Their running game has been pretty solid.
And they felt so confident in it. They traded Tank Bigsby away to just lean into Bashawn Tutin, along with Travis Etienne, and it's working. But yeah, Jags had 14 points off turnovers in the first half, which was kind of the difference there. Yeah, and the Jags defense create turnovers, man. The epic one, Cam Little misses only the when it was 26-21, which ends up being the final, but 3:30 left. And literally the next play is the Eric Armstead revenge moment. He gets the strip sack on Purdy. Just a great play, like up the middle where he just kind of reached out, did the then ended up kind of sealing the game a bit there. And then speaking of turnovers, Fred Warner had his 17th forced fumble, which now made him the all-time leader for passing Patrick Willis.
I did not know. Wait, all-time 49ers leader, I'm assuming?
49ers
Okay.
leader.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fred Warner is still Fred Warner, man. Probably still the best off-ball linebacker in the entire NFL. Although Jahad Campbell might be making a run for his money. Jahad Campbell's been really good, but random side note. But yeah, I mean, again, kind of like you're saying, dude, you got to give the Jags credit. We've kind of been dogging on them the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just mostly been because their offense and, had to see more out of their defense. But at this point, man, they're just finding a way. And, and again, it's only 4 games in the year, so it's tough. Part of that, you have to give credit to the head coach, the first-year head coach, and Liam Cohen. Like, even though he is an offensive-minded coach, again, their teams are finding a way. I do think they have still, in fairness, they've had a nice schedule. They got the Niners really beat up, even though Brock Purdy was back. And then before that, they had the Panthers and the Texans that they got wins against. And then they lost the Bengals with their backup quarterback in the second half. So, I still feel like I need to see a little bit more from the Jags. But again, 3-1, that's solid, tied for the division lead. It's all you can ask for through 4 games.
Yeah, and they could be 4-0 if it wasn't for some horrible play at the end of the Bengals game, and Brian Thomas Jr. just having no interest in playing football that day did not help. Special teams, though, man. Parker Washington with another punt return touchdown.
I know,
87-yarder, which is what made it 26.
It was the punt returns this week. It was the punt returns.
Crazy, dude. Crazy, man. So yeah, the Jags moved to 3-1. Another undefeated falls. Jags get the Chiefs on Monday Night Football next week. And the 49ers get the Rams, battle for lead in the division, or tie and open it up for the Seahawks to take it.
There you go.
All right, last of the 4 o'clock. This game was kind of on crack a little bit too, man. Geno Smith did everything in his
Shoot, dude.
power. I think he had money on the Bears at one point.
It
Just
was
could not
rough,
stop
man.
throwing the ball to the Bears, man. The Raiders, props to the Bears for winning this game and holding on. But the Raiders, in all intents and purposes, should have had this game locked up and didn't win it.
Yeah, and you gotta. I hate to not give credit to the Bears. Like, good job. Their defense forced turnovers. The only problem with that, Dakota, is that ever since our week 1 Geno glaze fest, if you will, he's been awful. I mean, he has been awful, consistently really, really bad. So that's very concerning. And I always thought it was possible that could happen. Although I did feel like with Pete Carroll, like they would find a way to at least be solid. Hasn't really been the case though, dude. Geno has been like abysmal. And he doesn't have the best weapons around him. Although another big storyline from this game, and I hate to continue not to give credit to the Bears, but it's something we have to talk about, is Ashton Jeanty. He showed that it factor, brother. He showed that it factor after our Ryan Clark clip, and talking about that, he showed a lot of it this week.
It's the Ryan Clark revenge game for Ashton Jeanty. Statement towards him because he had the longest touchdown run in the NFL this season. I don't know if that's enough or enough pop for Ryan Clark. But Ashton Jeanty had it behind one of the worst offensive lines in the noted. But Geno, dude. Now that when I go look at that clip too, I'm like, man, should we pull it down? The respect Geno thing, because you shouldn't right now. He is the 34th, I think, graded quarterback at everybody who's played of 37 eligible this season for passing. He has not been good, man. And it sucks.
He is not.
Again, the Raiders, in all intents and purposes, like Max Crosby was wreaking utter havoc in this game.
Yes.
They had the Bears, like there was numerous possessions where the Bears got pushed back about 20 yards. One of them, they got pushed out of field goal range. It was so bad for Geno that Kevin Byard had 2 interceptions. And I sent this to you and a buddy of ours saying, what year would you think it is if I told you Kevin Byard had 2 interceptions and a half?
No doubt.
You wouldn't think 2025. So
no.
This game was just kind of messy all around. But the Bears managed to still get it done. Caleb played okay overall. Roma Dunze is kind of the key I would take from this. Roma Dunze has been really good. But all things considered, this was Jeanty's breakout game. Even though they lost, it proved Ashton Jeanty is still Ashton Jeanty, guys. Let's calm down on overreacting after 3 weeks of football.
This is why we can't overreact to 3 weeks of football, and this is why we need context. So it'll be interesting to see if Ryan Clark has apologized to Jeanty or how that's played out. He was unbelievable in this game. I think we just got to start, giving Caleb credit. I think Caleb is right now, Dakota, agree or disagree, been the the best second-year quarterback this year. I mean, hard to argue with Jaden being out right now. It's very hard to argue. And listen, he deserves part blame for this, but it was mostly their defense against the Vikings in week 1 who completely melted down. And had they not blown that game, they're looking at a 3-1 record, man. And it was against the Cowboys defense and the Raiders defense, which is good context. Like that's part of the context we're talking about. These are 2 of the worst defenses in the league back-to-back weeks. But hey, I think they're headed in the right direction. Him and Ben Johnson and our boy Steve from Check the Mic predicted, Dakota, that the Bears will be better at the end of the season than the start of the season, that it'll take a little bit. And maybe that's, already starting to come true. I'm not saying the Bears are winning this division or anything, but they're at least competitive right now. One notable play from this game that I loved was the fake flea flicker. That was phenomenal. I mean, they had everyone fooled on that, dude. Swift had a wide open hole. That was incredible. I mean, especially after last week using the flea flicker. So they're sitting there, they're watching film. They're like, hey, we got to watch out for this. And then it, opened up the hole for DeAndre Swift. So that was an incredible play. Ben Johnson in his bag as always. But yeah, give credit to the Bears, even though, they let the Raiders hang around despite Geno doing everything he can to not hang around.
Yeah. And they also, Bears also ran the stumble play, and it did not work at all. But they managed to get it on 4th down the next play, so that drive stayed alive on their own 40 as well. Ben Johnson went for it on their own 40 on 4th down in the second quarter. Yeah, man, there was a few things too. There was also a couple drops in there for Caleb. Kmet had one that he dropped on a big play that was kind of down the seam. He got hit on it, but it was like, you got to catch that. He didn't drop dropping the football. Caleb deserves a lot of credit. His accuracy on a down-to-down perspective is still just, man, get it together a little bit. Like,
it's weird.
At any given moment. It is weird because
he wasn't like that in college.
No, and at any given moment, he will make a throw and play where that's top 5 in the NFL caliber type stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next play, he's throwing it into the flat to DeAndre Swift and misses him by. It's like, I think it's part of the same thing with Stroud, where there's this panicky mindset of like, I can't set my feet and make the throw. Like, I got to get it to the flat, and I'm used to the rush just killing me, so I'm just going to turn, sling it, and it's like a lazy attempt at a throw is what I think I'd call it. And if you could just clean that up, man, it would help a lot. And this offense could be pretty good. I mean,
it could.
DeAndre Swift looks solid. The run game wasn't great today. Yesterday still, but this offense has the opportunity to still be really good. And hopefully they're kind of getting into the swing.
Yeah, I think they're heading the right direction, but you're right. On a down-to-down basis, Caleb has not been as accurate as he was in college. Very confusing. And, maybe it was partly last year and him, being worried about his O-line and thrown off his back foot a lot. Who knows? I think he can still get it together. And again, I think they are headed in the right direction as an offense in general. Even if Caleb hasn't been the best down to down, which is true. I mean, that's a fair criticism of Caleb so far.
One negative for the Raiders as well coming out of this game, Colt Miller started off with an injury. He had no weight on it, but apparently they're not ruling him out consistently yet. They put him on he's supposed to be out for multiple games, but I don't think it was similar. I think it was the exact same injury, just sprain like Joe Wall. When you weigh 300 pounds, putting weight on it feels like the end of the world. So he'll probably be out for roughly the same amount of time, but that's going to be a brutal loss for this. And my last thing on this game is just the Raiders offense is so predictable that's part of the problem for me. And Genty, especially if you do, it's like there's the moments where their run game is so bad when the defense knows it's coming. Yeah. And that happened at the end of the game when they were going to the game. They had a chance to win the game, man. And they ran it on 3rd and 2. And I hated that decision at the end of the game because every time you watch a play where it's like a 3rd and short, they're trying to run the clock out, this run game is not existent. The offensive line is so bad that the defense can feast. And to me, it felt like settling for the field goal there, and it cost them because they then try to kick the field goal and it gets blocked. Special teams. But throughout the game too, man, the play calling and decision making by the Raiders offense is definitely not helping them out either.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. Yeah. Not much else to say about this one.
No, Bears move to 2-2. Raiders fall to 1 at Indianapolis next week. Probably not going to get much better for them. And the Bears are on a bye week. And then they go to Washington on Monday Night Football, I think. Maybe part of that doubleheader that week.
The battle of the sophomore quarterbacks. I love it.
And the battle, it's Tyreek Stevenson's revenge game.
Didn't think about that one. Will he give up a last-second Hail Mary again?
Maybe. It'd be insane if he did. If it happened twice, that would be...
Yeah, that would be pretty wild.
All right. Wrapped up the 4 o'clock. Monday Night Football is officially kicked off. Dolphins uniforms look worse on the field. I was kind of thinking they'd look better. I don't like them, man. I don't like them.
Oh, no. I know you had high hopes for those unis.
I did. Not a fan. I thought they'd look better under the lights, but the giant orange names looks terrible to me. But
oh, no.
All right. Packers, Cowboys, tie. They're the highest scoring tie in NFL, or not the second highest score tie in NFL history. Scoregami, though.
Scoregami. Yes, Scoregami. They took forever to post it, but it was a Scoregami, the first 40-40 tie in NFL history.
It was. And what a game, dude. Oh, my God. Kind of have whiplash from it because I stayed up to watch it and literally went to bed, told my wife, I was like, I feel unsatisfied. I feel cheated. I kind of feel mad because it ended in a tie, and it kind of didn't need to. Like at the end there, Packers basically played for the tie a little bit. They had an opportunity to stop the clock and they didn't. And then end up they take one shot and luckily had a second left on the game clock on the game clock to then kick the game tying. Literally, it was one of the first kick the game tying field goal for the game to end tie.
Yeah, that's nuts that it's weird that they played for the tie when they had an opportunity to win the game outright. I get not wanting to take the loss, but that is just an odd decision. The Cowboys also had a chance. They got the ball down to like the 4 in overtime to win this game. It also, it felt like a game that was starting to slip from the Cowboys in the first half, but then just blunders from the Packers and things just led the Cowboys getting back into it. Got to give credit to Dak and George Pickens. Specifically Dak, man. Dak, we have said on this podcast multiple occasions that Dak is a lot better than the fan perception. And he has been historically throughout his career. And he showed that in this game, man. Down his number one wide receiver and, basically having to deal with Micah Parsons getting pressure every other play, under duress. He's been under duress all season long, but Dak just finds a way, man. He's found a way to make tight window throws, given George Pickens in particular opportunities. That score before the half was absolutely massive going into the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one of those times where it's like, I can't believe the Cowboys are winning the game before the half, but they found a way to do so on the back of Dak Prescott, dude.
And it's funny because again, it did feel like an absolute blowout when the Packers were going to go up 14-0, and then they get the blocked PAT special teams for 2. So it was 13-2.
I think that's the first time we saw that this season, or maybe ever. Yeah. I don't know.
13-2 score felt wild to be witnessing it. Yeah, Dak, dude, 31 of 40. So efficient, and while dealing with an offensive line that's just been a problem, this may be, for what it's worth as well, it was a solid chance this is the only 300-yard 3-touchdown by both quarterback games we see all year. Because of just how low passing stats and just offensive stats have been in general. The overtime obviously, but Love played okay. His stat line's a little inflated, opportunities missed, and he kind of threw stuff behind the back in the line of scrimmage that guys made some plays on. His touchdown plays were great, though. He had a fade and then the classic fake into the slant for Dobbs. So he gets the hat trick of touchdowns. And, the big story, that guardian cap, he could see it in the end zone. So that's when he finds him. He started 6 of 6 for 90 and a touchdown. Big story, though, the Micah Parsons stuff.
Micah's back.
He was out for a little bit in the game with dealing with an injury or something. I think they wanted his back bothered him, but I think they wanted to check him for concussion at one point. So they made him go into the medical tent. So he missed a drive. And he still finished with 10 pressures per PFF, a 94.3 pass rushing grade, which may have been the best of the week.
Yeah. Mike is dominant, man, despite not getting sacks. Sam made a good point on Check the Mic. It's like, how did Rashawn Gary not take advantage of Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
Just wrecking havoc all night long. Micah was a big factor in the game. Obviously, the big surprise was the Packers defense is just as a whole wasn't as good as it has been, especially with the Cowboys injuries. It was just very surprising. But yeah, Micah showed up, man. I'm sure Skip claimed he didn't since he didn't have 3 sacks. But yeah, overall, from a down-to-down pass rush perspective, he was making a huge impact on the game.
And his one sack, which people have tried to discredit him for, was a touchdown saving one, by the way, that let the game end the way that it did. Because if he doesn't get that tackle on Dak, then that was a 3rd and goal play that then led to the overtime stuff happening. So massive play by Micah. The interesting part, Josh Jacobs averaged over 4 yards a carry in this. So we're stopping the run thing didn't really happen. Emmanuel Wilson actually looked pretty good in this as well. Kenny Clark did have a couple plays in there. He did make his presence known at times. I think all the credit in the world, though, to Dak and George Pickens. George 134, 2 touchdowns in this game.
So good, man.
Imagine if CD had been playing, and Michael Irvin made this point. This isn't even a hot. He was like, Packers had all their best players on the field. We did not have all of our guys on the field, and it's true. The
Yeah.
argument, not arguably, their best player, CD Lamb, was not on the field for this game,
Well,
and they still output from offense
and their best defensive player was playing for the Packers.
for the other team.
Part of the problem.
Doesn't help, man.
Doesn't help.
It's part of the problem. But yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
with how sorry, I just have to say, with how Dak's playing this year, they could have competed for something, man. Like they could have competed for the playoffs, but you decided to mess around with Micah's, contract and wait till the very end, and it cost you, and you had to trade him away. And now you're going to, what I believe, waste the last probably prime years of Dak Prescott and for like a semi-competitive rebuild, which is just, I mean, that's good, cool for the fans because at least, you're not just going like, you're not drafting the top 5 every year. But has that ever actually resulted in winning a Super Bowl after it? I don't really feel like it's ever really worked to, get to the ultimate prize, which obviously the Cowboys want to do. It is kind of unfortunate, man, because when Dak is healthy, which he wasn't last year, he wasn't healthy last season. When he is healthy, imagine him with this offense and with CD Lamb and George Pickens and that receiving core. And then if you kept Micah Parsons, then your defense would have been competitive. But it's not.
It's not, man. It sucks because honestly, Schottenheimer's been solid, man. Offensively, this team is one of the best in the NFL from an offensive perspective right now. They are even with the injuries and an offensive line that's very
not good at all.
But the defense is just abysmal. And it's going to hold them back. The tie helps a little bit where you're now 1-2-1, so you're still clinging to hope there. To be honest, the ties are weird when you get into playoff time too, because it kind of helps because it's less than a win, but more than a loss. So 9-7-1, you get in over the 9-8 team. But we'll have to see, man. And this game was just crazy. The fourth quarter, especially, like all of the back and forth in the second half. Every single drive in the second half, there was one drive that ended in a punt the entire second half. Other than that, you had touchdown, 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 and then the game time send it to overtime. Just electric second half of football. Also, no defense being played anywhere. You had a 12-play and 14-play drive by the Cowboys, a 10-play by the Packers. Just electric offense, and special teams also played a role in this because Kevontae Turpin had a big return at one point that had set up a drive that then gave them the lead. The kick by the Packers was a 53-yarder that was just middle. Just an all-around insane game, and it's weird because it feels positive in a way that's like, man, I don't want one of these teams to have to win this game, but it also just feels a little bad taste in the mouth that a game this epic ends in a tie.
So that's a question now that we can talk about. Do you feel like they should change the overtime rules?
I kind of like what Steve said on Check the Mic. If you just made it 15 minutes again instead of 10, then with the new rule,
this is why I love that guy.
It's probably going to end. Yeah.
This is why I love that guy, because it's like, dude, that was my biggest problem with the overtime changes is why did you reduce it to 10 minutes? I don't know why they did that. I would also be supportive of just take away the time limit and just leave the same rules, which is, obviously you can respond with a field goal, and in the playoffs you can respond with a touchdown. And you still can't respond with a touchdown in the regular season, right? They have it where if
they changed that this year.
Okay, so you can respond with a touchdown.
Yeah,
but
the same,
then it's just like next score wins. It's like, I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like you don't really need the time limit. I don't really get why there's a time limit. Because it's not like college where you're putting the teams in a position where, okay, most of the time they're going to respond, or in the 2-point thing, like, it's a 50-50, so you can both miss it or whatever. The game wouldn't go on forever. That's my point. The game wouldn't go on forever if you just took away the time limit, unless just both the offenses are just completely abysmal. I just don't like ties. I don't like ties. So I'd rather there be no ties.
Yeah, I like that idea because it's also like it's also crazy because the reason that I know for that, they talked about it, but also they deferred. Packers won and deferred because now it's like almost like college where it's like I want to go second to see what I need. But if your method was there, if the first team scores a touchdown, second team, obviously they have to score, but they're going to go for two. And that's
Yeah,
going to end the game right then and there either way.
true. Yep.
It probably won't even make it to the third possession because of that. And I would take that. Like, let's get out of here and not have to play forever. But next score wins would do it. But yeah, the tie feels tough. I'm not a fan of it. And both teams, they had 10 play, 13 play drives that ended in field goals in the red zone. So it's like they just kind of played a bit safe there. And Dak had an insane throw that got them down to the goal line anyway.
That was wild, man.
And what a play to come back to the ball as well by the receiver there. But yeah, in the end, it ends in a tie. One of the best games probably this season.
Yeah.
But ends in a tie. Packers 2-1-1, man. After again, we called out Colin Cowherd. Maybe let's not proclaim the Packers NFC champs immediately. And now this defense did not look as elite in this matchup, and offense, was able to kind of match the thing. But past 2 weeks, Packers have looked beatable.
Yeah.
They lost to the Browns and looked beatable in this.
Yeah, they're definitely not as dominant as we thought they're going to be. I feel right now through 4 weeks, I still feel better about the Rams than the Packers, personally, just in the NFC. And I still don't know if it's a guarantee they're winning their own division either, especially with how the Lions have played. Like they won that game in week 1. I think the Lions are probably favored to win that division. The only thing is that I'm curious about the Packers defense because although they lost to the Browns, their defense still played phenomenally. I mean, their defense essentially gave up no points in that game, despite the scoreboard. So I am curious, and of course, give the credit to the Cowboys, which we already did. But is their defense just bad now, or are we gonna get back on track, or what? So we have more evidence that their defense has been good this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna take victory laps early. Oh well, what a forced fumble in that game. But when the Micah thing happened, my thing was still just that secondary worried me. And I think that's what got exposed in this game is that George Pickens and Dak just picked him apart. Flacco wasn't able to do that dominant, but in this game where it wasn't as dominant and Dak was just a good quarterback, I think that the secondary could be the thing that holds back. And I think that's what happened here, where they couldn't cover George Pickens. And at the end of the day, the pass rush, it makes a massive impact, but back who can play at an elite level like Dak did, I think that's the thing that could be their kryptonite, unfortunately.
True.
All right. That is a wrap. We did it.
That's it.
All the games. Besides the 2 Monday night games, battle of 0-3 teams going on right now. But yeah, another solid week of NFL football. Appreciate all the support. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Thanks everybody that tuned in live and for watching. But until next time.
Thanks for talking balls.